welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsey, otherwise known as Lottie and Albert everywhere on the internet. And I do have a different video for you today. I'm going to be having a bit of a sort out of my craft storage yarn stash situation because it's gotten a little bit out of hand. If you follow me on Instagram, you may remember that this used to be my craft room slash spare bedroom. I used to have a desk here in the middle, and then when I was pregnant we had these big double wardrobes built into the kind of alcoves, which are amazing and you can store so much in them. So now currently we've got one wardrobe and kind of chest of drawers for baby stuff, and then the other wardrobe is all my yarn stash. I don't think it's a crazy amount of yarn. You can let me know in the comments what you think. I mean, it is a lot, granted, it's a lot. It does fill this whole wardrobe, but it's not like crazy. But it's a total mess. And the trouble is, because this is George's bedroom, any downtime or free time I normally have is when he is asleep. And so it's not a great time for sorting out. So I have been meaning to do this for a little while. And I think what I need to do is just get everything out. I've got yarn in there, which is all mixed up, and I've also got other craft supplies which I think I just need to be really brutal and purge and get rid of things that I'm never going to use, and likewise with my fabric. And I feel like if I can free up space from the other craft materials, I'll then have more space to sort out my yarn and to get it organised. So yeah, I thought I'd show you what I'm doing, but yeah, please don't judge. It is a mess, like I said. And then the hope is, long term, we do have basically another room that's exactly the same size as this, that is currently my husband's office. And I'm due to go back to work in September. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like currently after my maternity leave because of coronavirus and everything that's happened. I might be working from home, or there is also a potential that I might not go back to work in the same capacity, so I might be working from home in other ways. So I am keen to get that as a kind of shared office space. But my husband has said it can only happen if I sort out all my yarn and try and get rid of some stuff, which I think is probably fair enough, because I think he's nervous that if we start sharing an office, his chair will be sort of slowly avalanched by a giant pile of yarn, which is probably not an unfair fear that he has. I don't know what I'm talking about now. So anyway, let's get to it. I'm going to do a bit of music, a bit of commentary. Potentially this could just end up in a giant mess and I use up the hour or 2 hours or however long I have just getting everything out and then not really sorting, but fingers crossed I can make some inroads. So let's see how we go on.
So I'm not so much nervous about the amount, it's just how it's stored and the complete mess. So as you can see, I've just shoved stuff back in. Let's just take a moment to pause and look at that tower of mess. It's a little bit embarrassing, isn't it? So, as I said, I'm just gonna start by getting everything out, and Marie Kondo style, she recommends this, then sorting through it and really trying to decide what not just sparks joy, which is what she says, but what I actually need or I'm gonna look at or enjoy in the future.
Okay, so I pretty much just feel overwhelmed at this point. This is fabric, non-fabric crafts, and then this is a whole mix of some fabric, some wool, and mostly just stuff I've shoved in the wardrobe when I haven't had time. So I think I'm going to start with the fabric, because if I can clear out some of this that I just know I'm never going to use, then that could potentially free up a lot of space, because this whole one here and this one are all fabric. So let's see how we get on.
My current self apologises for my past self snacking whilst filming. Also, I wish it was this fast because it took me ages, but I was trying to assess each piece of fabric. In hindsight, possibly I could have done it a quicker way, but I did manage to fill the box in the end. Yeah, it just took a while.
Okay, so I sorted through one box of fabric. This is what I have decided to get rid of, so, you know, a few bits. And this is what I've decided to keep. There are a few bits that, such a mess. There are a few bits that I am undecided about. So I have this big piece of fabric, these jerseys, which are cute, but I don't really actually sew anything with jersey. And this piece is massive, but I think for this one, what I would quite like to do is maybe even make like some bed sheets or a duvet cover or something out of that, because that would use it all up and be useful. But I got these from sort of at my work, because it's craft magazines. Quite often the sort of sewing magazines and everything, everybody has sales of their fabric, and it's for charity, and so you sort of give money and take home stacks of fabric, and I'm a complete sucker for those. I bought this one at a vintage fair, I think only last year. I think I've made one cushion with it, but it's a big old piece of fabric, so maybe it could be like a backing for a quilt, which I am making at the moment. And then this I do actually have a plan for. I want to make some cushions with this big old dark brown black velvet curtain, or possibly a footstool for our living room. And everything else I guess I'm just kind of keeping just in case. But I have another box of fabric here, and I feel like I might be able to be a bit more ruthless and get rid of some of that, because a lot of it is sort of quilting fabrics and children's quilting fabrics that I would say I don't really have any plans for or want to use. And then most of the other stuff I've kept is like solids, solid fabrics, and this is a kind of maybe pile of quilting fabrics. So this is why it's so hard, isn't it? Because I see potential in everything, and everything I'm like, but I could make something with that. But will I? Will I? Just so you're under no illusion, it is now much later. It's actually 3 months later. And in my defense, I have been working on the stash, and I'm going to show you in a few seconds what it's looking like. But also, there's a little bit of an issue with this room. In there's George's bedroom, and like I said, any free time I have tends to be when he's asleep. So it has been tricky to sort out. I love my optimism in the first part of the video where I was like, I've got an hour or two, I'm going to sort it out. No. It has taken a lot longer than that. I'll show you where I'm up to. I have gotten rid of, I mean, kilos of yarn. I did a big de-stash on Instagram. I got rid of that big HelloFresh box worth of fabric and shipped that off to my mum. And I was also super ruthless in going through some of the other crafting things that I haven't used in ages. As an idea, I got rid of a candle making kit. I say kit, I bought all the different components that I bought 8 years ago. 8 years. And as I was looking at the receipt thinking, wow, I bought that 8 years ago, I started putting it back in the box. I was like, no. Let's not hold on to that. If I haven't made candles in 8 years, I'm probably not going to. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, since recording that video 3 months ago, where I was having a general declutter because I wanted to sort out my yarn, My husband and I have gotten quite interested in becoming more minimal in a very, I mean, it means something different to everybody, doesn't it? But I did the Marie Kondo book a few years ago and I got rid of loads of stuff. But I think where I've fallen down is I realise now it needs to be a kind of continual process and something that I'm working on all the time. We have a large house. There's 5 of us living here. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it was full to the rafters. So in addition to the yarn sort out, we have on the side been getting rid of, I'm going to say thousands of items. And a lot of that's like clothes and toys and just general stuff that we probably weren't keeping on top of, that most people get rid of anyway. I'm feeling so much better for it. But what I thought I would do is, there are a few more areas that I know I can get rid of things. I thought I might talk you through my process and how I've been approaching being more ruthless, because coming from a person who really struggles to get rid of things, I have had a real change of heart in the last few weeks since we've been getting more interested in minimalism as a concept. So I'll talk you through the process. And I'll show you the amount of stuff I have sat here on the bed that I'm going to try and get in the wardrobe, because I don't know how. I just keep finding craft stuff from around the house, and ideally I would like to get to a point where it all fits in this one giant wardrobe. So I will talk you through that as well and show you my progress. So without further ado, here's what it's looking like now. Don't expect like a really manicured perfect system. I haven't bought new pretty storage crates or anything. It's what I had before, but it's a lot tidier. Okay. So as you can see, I now have boxes of yarn down here. These hanging up here are project bags with projects that I do intend to work on. I got rid of a lot of whips and frog things and got rid of yarn. This sort of scattered collection here is stuff that I want to list or sell. And then generally this stuff here, I feel like I can still sort out. So let's get to it. So essentially how I have chosen to sort the yarn out is by weight and then a little bit by fibre as well. So for instance, this big box down here is any yarn that's bigger than chunky. So you can see I've got sort of t-shirt yarn and I've got really thick roving. Don't let stress you out, but they're in the wrong order. This one is chunky yarns. This one is DK. This one is hand-dyed yarns. This is anything thinner than DK. This is actually a project whip. And then these two are cottons. And in this box I've got DK cottons, so a lot of Rico Rumi. And in this box I've got anything that's cotton that isn't DK. So I've got thinner cotton yarns and I've got thicker cotton yarns in there. And my downfall is boxes like this. So essentially when I work on projects or I do commissions, I come in and I just grab yarns out of the boxes, and then they don't necessarily get put back away quickly. And so this box is just a big box of yarns that need putting in these boxes. But I also know you are here because you want to see the yarns, so let's have a look at some of the nice yarns. Okay, I've got my big box down. I'm going to sort through the yarns, and whilst I do it I'm going to give you a few tips that I have found helpful in terms of trying to be more minimalist whilst also being a crafter, because I think one of the hardest things for me is I can see value in lots of scraps and discarded pieces. I mean, I don't know. This, for instance, is this a valuable piece of yarn to keep? Probably not. How many scrap blankets am I actually going to make in a year? Probably not very many. But because I can see potential in everything, I hang on to everything as a potential crafter. But, and I don't know if this will strike a chord with anybody else, one of the things that I have heard recently on a podcast where they were talking about minimalism was one of the hardest things about getting rid of your stuff is the fact that you have to face up to the fact that the person who you thought you were or the person you wanted to be when you bought the stuff is not the person that you are. Which sounds really harsh, but I think if we think maybe about exercise equipment, a lot of us can relate to that. You might buy exercise equipment thinking, I'm going to use this all the time, be really fit. But how many of us do actually manage to do that? I mean, hats off to you if you do. But I know there's a lot of people with sort of unused equipment that they bought. And the way that I've kind of translated that to my yarn is, how much of this yarn am I actually going to get the opportunity to use? Or how much of the craft supplies, if I haven't made the candle kit in 8 years, am I actually going to make it? And just because I can see the potential for a project, my mindset now, I'm trying to be a little bit more like, if I don't have a specific project or there isn't something that I'm definitely going to make with this yarn, and also something that I'm going to prioritise and make the time for, then I should let it go. And I should let it go and it can have a happy life with somebody else, whether that's donated or I sell it or whatever. And often now, if I work with yarn companies, they send me the yarn anyway. Or if I am doing projects for my book, for instance, I've requested yarn support from companies, and I know that's not the case for everybody, but that is kind of my reality, and that's what I've tried to think about when sorting out this yarn is, do I really need to hold on to all these little scraps and things? So that's one tip. Another tip that I have found useful that the minimalists say is, the minimalists, by the way, is not just like the big group of people that I'm thinking of. It's two guys in particular who have done a documentary on Netflix, which I recommend, and also they have a really helpful podcast which I've listened to, and they say try and think about it this way: is it something that you can source for less than $20 within less than 20 minutes of your house? And if that's the case, then maybe you don't need to hold on to it. And so maybe that doesn't count for yarn, because obviously yarns can be very specialist, but I have found that tip really helpful in thinking about wider things, and I don't know, maybe things like specialist tools and different bits and bobs. Do I really need to keep the tool that punches poppers into outfits for the one time in 5 years that I have made an outfit that has poppers in it? Probably not.
The third tip that, I don't know, maybe you guys are already doing this, let me know if you are, but it's been a little bit of an epiphany for me, is that I've realised about 80% of my stash is single balls of yarn that I've bought individually and can't really be used together. And I'm going to borrow a tip from sort of capsule wardrobes and how people approach that, and actually just save up and then allow myself to buy that sweater quantity of really nice yarn and spend, you know, a lot of money, because that's what I would have been spending on random individual balls that don't get used anyway.
So here is the update on how it is looking. Let me jump in and show you. We've now got Chunky, and I think that isn't Chunky, DK, Aaron, Cotton, Projects, Fluff, Diddy Dye, Tiny Yarn, and a whip. And then up here I have a few whips. What did I say this was? Chunky? And a new box, raffia. Apparently I have enough raffia yarn to warrant its own box. And then I also managed to get a box for the charity shop. It's mostly scraps, but maybe somebody can put it to use. And I do have some stuff on the bed, which still hasn't found its way back into the wardrobe. I also have these two boxes here, which are annoying me slightly. This is a patchwork quilt, and that one is just samples and stuff I need to sort out. So it is not finished by any means, but I hope that maybe this is either giving you some enjoyment looking at all my yarn, or it has given you some tips on maybe how you can whittle it down or get rid of yarn. I realise that maybe this concept isn't one that people are looking for, but honestly for me, I think I just want my yarn stash to be full of yarn that I actually want to use and work on for projects, and not to be sort of like cramped and crowded with random odds and sods and ends and yarns that don't inspire me. So do not panic. I still have a lot of yarn, but I'm feeling much happier. Just generally minimalising and feeling calmer. It just makes me feel more in control, and yeah, I'm really pleased and I'm going to continue. So if you're interested in any more minimalism tips or how to be minimalist and also be a crafter, keep watching. Maybe I can do another video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with another video. If you have enjoyed watching today, then please do feel free to give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment, or even consider subscribing to the channel. We have just hit 5,000 subscribers, which means that in the next video, which will probably be a podcast video, I've got a giveaway for you guys. Yeah. See you all soon. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm doing a weird like half standing, half sitting thing.